Hello, this is Crystal Racing with the review for the 2023 Spanish Grand Prix, and Max Verstappen is literally in a different postcode to everyone else in Formula 1 right now. The guy is unstoppable. He is undoubtedly the best driver in Formula 1, and I think it's pretty safe to say if he was not in F1 right now, we would actually be getting quite a thrilling title fight going on between the likes of Perez, Alonso, and Hamilton, but Max is brilliant. It's just there to see. He's going to become a five-time world champion by the end of 2025. I know it. He's just too good. But in front, but of course, behind him, the two Mercedes finished behind him. Hamilton, solid race. I'll give him an A grade. I'll give Max Verstappen an A plus because he was just outstanding. Russell, I think I'll give him a B plus because he did mess up qualifying yesterday, getting knocked down Q2. Fought through the field quite well, but he was helped out by the chaos that happened early on with, of course, Norris and Hamilton colliding coming out of turn 2. But then, of course, we have in 4th place Perez, who, for me, I will give a C grade. It's tempting to drop him into the D category, but the problem is, though, he's just not as good as Max Verstappen. It's that simple. Getting knocked down Q2 on pure pace alone. Now, it does seem to be right now Max Verstappen is taking a Red Bull to another level. But I have to say, though, in terms of Max Verstappen versus his actual peer group, i.e. the people of the same age generation as him, he would destroy all of them in what could be the third best car, because right now there's only really Hamilton and Alonso who are capable of taking him on in a championship fight if everyone was racing equal cars. But of course, as for Alonso, I'll get on to him later. 5th place, Carlos Sainz. Ferrari are not even relevant anymore. I can't even think of a joke anymore to say about Ferrari because, yeah, they're just sliding back to where they were in 2021. Not a particularly relevant team. Solid, but they're going to finish like somewhere like 3rd or 4th in a championship. It's going to be 4th place, to be honest. Carlos, outstanding qualifying lap yesterday, getting it into Q2, qualifying 2nd alongside Verstappen, but he was never going to stay in second on the podium today. Really unfortunate, but there's nothing good about that Ferrari car this year. Nothing. That car is just not quick enough, and I have to say, well, Carlos is. I mean, there's a weird thing that's going on between Carlos and Charles Leclerc. Is that Carlos seems to perform better when the car is having issues, while Charles is faster when the car is on rails. It's a really strange one because these two are reminding me of what Alesi and Berger were like in the early 90s when they raced for Ferrari. Alesi would get so much out of the car when the car was quick, but Berger was the one who would be getting results when the car was bad. And Sainz is pretty much like Gerhard Berger in that respect, while Leclerc is like Alesi, where he needs the car to be working almost perfectly for him to be on form. 6th place, Lance Stroll. Probably the best race he's had this season, but I'm going to give him a C grade. I think Carlos Sainz, I'll give him a B grade for his performance. Lance Stroll outqualified his teammate for the first time this season and outraced his teammate for the first time this season, but even so, he only finished just half a second ahead of Alonso, due to, of course, Alonso having problems in qualifying due to damage to his floor. I think the biggest surprise this weekend is the fact that Aston Martin, which has a car that is supposed to be easy on its tyres, actually struggles so much on the circuit where tyre preservation around Circuit de Catalunya is absolutely key and vital for a strong result here. And yet this weekend they had what looked like actually only the 4th best car. And if it wasn't for Pierre Gasly's penalty, I think they would have finished even further down. Fernando Alonso, I'll give him a C grade. Actually, I'll give Lance Stroll a C plus, really, for the fact he actually got one over Alonso, but no more than that. A C grade for Alonso, very disappointing. His worst race of the season so far, but he did have problems in qualifying, meaning he had to start down in 9th place. 8th place, Esteban Ocon. I'll give him a C+. Well, we got out-qualified by Gasly, but I suppose he stayed out of trouble, drove a solid race, but frankly, I do find his performance to be a bit disappointing considering Alpine had a car that was capable of qualifying fourth in Gasly's hand, who, of course, Gasly got a sixth place grid penalty for holding up Max and Sainz during qualifying. Ninth place, Zhou Guanyu. I'll give him an A grade. Probably his best race in F1 so far of his 18-month career. Very impressive drive for Alfa Romeo. Destroyed Bottas all weekend long. Arguably a bit lucky to be given P9 due to the penalty Tsunoda picked up, but we'll talk about that later. P10, Pierre Gasly, a C grade. For far too many penalties he picks up, I have to say. It's just really stupid now. I mean, if it wasn't for the sixth place grid penalty, he could have easily finished fifth ahead of Carlos Sainz. But once again, Pierre Gasly always seems to have a mistake in him. I'm beginning to wonder whether the guy actually has ADHD, because, my word, he is one phenomenally quick driver, but my goodness, there's just far too many errors in his driving, far too many mistakes. Can you just imagine how good he would be? I mean, this guy should really be at a top team, but he isn't because, of course, of those said errors that he continues to make and the number of times he keeps getting punished by the FIA. I mean, it's so careless at this point. I mean, let's be honest, the way he drove that during qualifying, it's almost like he was trying to reintroduce the old chicane back onto the circuit with the way he held up Sainz throughout the last two corners. Just utterly unacceptable. I mean, let's be honest, people were hyping up this big teammate battle between Esteban Ocon and Pierre Gasly, but frankly, the real teammate battle going on at Alpine is Pierre Gasly versus Pierre Gasly. P11, first of the non-point scorers, Charles Leclerc. I'm going to give him a C grade. Got taken into the weighbridge during Q1, meaning he didn't get a chance to complete a proper qualifying lap. And apparently he's been a bit under the weather this weekend, but then it's almost like he's been under the weather quite a lot this season so far because Sainz has got his number. And what's most alarming is that after the first 7 races, he's actually scored fewer points this year so far after round 7 with just 42 points compared to the number of points he scored after round 7 in 2020, which of course the year of the infamous SF1000 chassis where Charles actually scored 47 points. Yeah, this is a really bad year now for Charles. He's really got to dig deep, and I have to say, I wonder if he's talking to Lawrence Stroll at Aston Martin about a seat because things are not going well at Ferrari. Frederick Vasseur has not had the magic effect that Scuderia were hoping for, and of course, I'm not even sure he's been able to pucker up Leclerc recently. P12, Yuki Tsunoda, it's a B+ from me. Should have finished P9, but for an absolutely laughable penalty by the FIA. I don't know what on earth they're playing at. I think if you look at the replay shorts that you can see on my shorts section on my channel, you can see that Zhou and Tsunoda were perfectly alongside each other. I think Zhou was only like an inch ahead, but then as they break into the corner onto the apex, I mean, Zhou and Tsunoda are equally alongside each other, but Zhou, for some stupid reason, decided to try and hang his car around the outside, hoping Tsunoda would give the place, even though Tsunoda clearly still had enough cornering speed to hold his line around into the corner and keep it throughout the centre of the apex of Turn 1 and Turn 2. But Zhou, really kind of forced Tsunoda into pushing him off the track. I mean, Tsunoda had no choice. Even though, of course, I gave Zhou an A grade due to the fact he is doing wonders in the Alfa Romeo. I mean, Tsunoda was so unlucky with the penalty, especially when you consider how aggressive Ocon was with his defensive move on Alonso, where he forced Alonso onto the pit exit. Some quite borderline dangerous driving there by Ocon. Thankfully, Alonso was too smart for that. And he got around it, and he pretty much got the move done perfectly. Whilst, of course, Tsunoda was quite unlucky for a defensive move. That was actually quite soft in comparison. P13, Oscar Piastri, I think he qualified, was it? Well, he got knocked out in Q2. I think he just made a mistake yesterday, which costed him a chance of, I don't know, qualifying high up yesterday. And if he had not made that mistake in qualifying, I think he would have scored a big, solid bag of points. So I'm only going to give him a C grade, I'm afraid. But I've got to say, McLaren's race pace was just atrocious today. Absolutely, especially around a track like this, I mean, yeah, Piastri did cost him points since, of course, if he got into the top 5, he would have probably finished 6th, 7th, and scored some valuable points since, of course, qualifying, and grid position is key here in Spain. P14, I can't remember where everyone else now finished. Trying to think, was it? Oh my god, I just wasn't really watching that race that closely. I actually can't remember. I'm just going to do it off the top of my head. Hulkenberg, don't know where he finished. I'll give him a C grade. Magnussen, C grade, C minus if I'm going to be honest. No pace from Haas. Just not a serious team in F1. Just, I don't even know what they were trying to do this weekend. Oh yeah, Nick de Vries finished 14th. Yeah, that was him. C grade. Once again, destroyed by Tsunoda, even with the penalty. Albon and Williams, C grade for Albon, couldn't do anything. The Williams just simply had the slowest car this weekend, and Sargent, C minus. Bottas, I think, finished second to last. It's got to be a D grade. He's got to be the reject of the weekend for me. And Max Verstappen is, of course, a driver of the weekend. Did nothing wrong. Was Bottas at the other end of the grid, just so slow, just so off the pace. Now, of course, amazingly enough, both Bottas and Joe both have 4 points for the season, and I've got to say it. If Percheri was dominating Formula 2 like he really should be, considering it's now his 3rd year in Formula 2, I mean, but we would be talking about Bottas potentially losing his seat at the end of this year, because on current form, I mean, Bottas doesn't really deserve a seat in F1 at all, really. I'm trying to think of... Oh, yeah, Alpine are now on 40 points, whilst McLaren are on 17 points in the Constructors. Mercedes have jumped Aston Martin for 2nd place in the Constructors. Not that anyone really cares. AlphaTauri, Haas, Alfa Romeo, Williams. Have I talked about everyone? I think so. It just... I don't know what else to say. It's just not been that... That was it. There's not a lot to say about this Grand Prix. This was... I mean, I will say, though, getting rid of the final chicane did improve racing in the sense that, what's it, increased the amount of tyre wear, forcing the teams to do a 2-stop this weekend. And, I've got to say, you know, it's so much better to see the cars being able to, like, push their cars and go flat out around corners, especially for the last 2 corners, where, of course, the lap times have now dropped to, like, you know, a fastest lap of 1 minute 16. I think Perez did that. Of course, in qualifying, we did see a 1 minute 11 from Max. Insanely fast lap times, of course, also through practice. It's good to see the cars really be able to push again around a track like Circuit of Catalonia. But having said that, that was about as exciting as Catalonia can really offer up as a racetrack. It's not a bit... The dirty air effect is still too strong. And I think it's time to end it, really. I've got nothing to say.